Heroes, Chapter 7. "What's the matter?" Larry LaSalle asked. "Nothing," I replied. He found me sitting alone on the back steps of the rec centre, looking at nothing in particular. There was nothing in my world that was worth looking at. Inside, the chorus was rehearsing for the Follies and Fancies production, singing "Happy Days Are Here Again," the words like a mockery in my ears. I was aware of other kids busy at the craft tables. "It must be something," Larry LaSalle said, dropping onto the step beside me. "I'm rotten at everything," I confessed. "I can't sing. I can't dance. I'm no good at baseball. I can't even get up the nerve to hold a normal conversation with Nicole Reynard," I added silently. Avoiding his eyes, I was suddenly angry at my self-pity. "Snap out of it," I told myself. "I've been watching you, Francis, during calisthenics. You have outstanding reflexes. You have a natural athletic gait." He spelled out the word G-A-I-T. "I think I have the perfect sport for you." In spite of my doubts, my interest quickened. Larry LaSalle's opinion could never be dismissed. "Look, today's Tuesday. The center's closed for renovations for a couple of days to bring in new equipment. Be here Friday afternoon. You're gonna be a champion." "I'll be here," I promised. Where else would I be? When I arrived at the center 3 days later, I was surprised to see the place had been entirely rearranged. A small stage had been built at the far end of the hall, and 2 spotlights installed. "For the musical shows," he explained. A vending machine stood near the entrance. 2 ping-pong tables occupied spaces near the side windows, looking out on 3rd Street. Leading me to the nearest table, he picked up the white plastic ball and bounced it a few times. "Ping-pong?" I said, hoping my voice didn't betray my disappointment. "Table tennis," he said. "Ping-pong is a game. Table tennis is a sport. Known around the world, it's a sport you're going to dominate with your quickness and your reflexes." Pointing to 2 paddles on the table, he said, "Let's get going." He showed me how to stand, alert, leaning forward, knees bent slightly, paddle in my right hand, level with my belt. Going to the opposite side of the table, he hit the ball to me. I swung the paddle, struck the ball with a satisfying plop, and watched it sail cleanly over the net. The ball returned. I hit it again, bounce on his side, return to mine, bounce and return again. Suddenly the ball arrived, but squirted crazily to my right. Instantly alert, I reached, managed to hit it with the paddle, saw it fly just as crazily across the net. "Beautiful!" Larry LaSalle called. "You returned the spin." We played for almost an hour. As kids gathered to watch this new sport, sweat pasted my shirt to my body and glued the paddle to my hand. I missed some shots, particularly the balls with spin, which made them go wildly askew, but returned most of them. The crowd often cheered Larry LaSalle, and once or twice a cheer went up when I made a lunging return. Nobody had ever cheered me before. Finally, he threw down the paddle, called a halt, and led me to the new vending machine, where he bought me a Coke. "Congratulations, Francis," he said, raising his bottle in a toast. "You're a natural. Besides the reflexes, you have what I call sweet anticipation. It's what natural athletes have. Anticipating where the ball will land, whether it's baseball, football, or table tennis." I stood, spellbound by his words. "You also have a great return. That's the key, Francis. Let the other players make the moves, put on the spin, kill the ball. You just keep returning it good and steady. Your opponent will get frustrated, careless, make a mistake." He gulped down his Coke in one long swallow. "Tomorrow, I'll teach you the chop on defense and the spin on offense." Just as he had lured awkward girls into ballet classes and ball players and bullies into being singers and dancers, so did he bring a sudden importance to table tennis. He gave lessons tirelessly, arranged contests, encouraged girls to take up the sport. I spent hours at the tables, playing game after game, sharpening my chops and spins, but focusing mostly on returns, trying to stay loose, flowing with the ball. My opponents often became frustrated, as Larry LaSalle had predicted, faces turning scarlet with anger, while I stayed calm and composed, waiting for a mistake to be made. I didn't develop a spectacular kill shot like Joey LeBlanc. My spins were not as sharp as Louis Arabelle's, who played with a smoothness that was deceptive. He stroked the balls almost lazily, but they took unpredictable trajectories, never landing where they were expected. Yet I won my share of games and sometimes rang up a string of victories. I often searched for Nicole among the spectators, especially if I was having a fine game, but she was seldom present. One afternoon, as I defeated Joey LeBlanc with 5 successive points that left him speechless for once, I turned to find her eyes on me. She brought her hand to her lips and flung it away. Astonished, I wondered, did she actually blow me a kiss? Impossible. Or was it? The paddle slipped my hand and dropped to the table. When I looked up, she was gone. In the dance classes, Nicole was the most talented of all, her slender body dipping and turning without effort as if her bones were elastic. Jealousy streaked through me as Larry LaSalle tossed her in the air, letting her fly, defying gravity for a breathless moment, then caught her, pressing her close, their faces almost touching, their lips only an inch or so from a kiss, before he allowed her to slip down against his body. He applauded her, his eyes looking deeply into hers as she lay at his feet. For the December production, he built an entire number around her, and a song called Dancing in the Dark. She glided in and out of shadows as the music played on a phonograph, and Larry LaSalle manipulated a spotlight he'd installed especially for her performance. He continued to give me extra lessons at the table, and we played countless games against each other. His eyes shone with admiration when I made an unusual shot. "My ambition for you, Francis," he said, "is to have you beat me." But he always won, with an array of attacks and returns that seemed effortless, but always found their mark. As the first weekend of December approached, excitement ran high through the rec centre when Larry LaSalle announced a double-header, a table tennis tournament on Saturday, to be followed by the musical show, Follies and Fancies, on Sunday. "Nicole's the star on Sunday, and I want you to be the star on Saturday," Larry LaSalle said. "I'm not supposed to play favorites, Francis, but you and Nicole are special to me." I wondered if he suspected my secret love for her. When I arrived at the rec centre on Saturday, kids had gathered around a silver trophy shaped like a player posed to serve the ball. I pictured Nicole handing me the trophy while I accepted it with the modesty of a true champion. I was not scheduled to play until the afternoon, through an elaborate system Larry LaSalle had devised to allow the ordinary players to eliminate themselves. The better players, like Louis Arabelle, Joey LeBlanc, and me, were reserved to take on the morning winners. As the centre echoed with the sound of bouncing balls and the whoops and applause of the spectators, I stalked to the centre, restless and nervous. Suppose my spins and chops deserted me? What if my returns veered off the table? Staring out the window, I sensed a presence nearby, a sudden disturbance in the air, and at the same time the drift of a delicate scent that I associated with Nicole Reynard. "Good luck, Francis." I turned to find her there. Speechless as always in her company, I managed a stupid smile. I love to watch you dance," I blurted out the words, surprising myself with my ability to say such a thing. "And I love to watch you play," she said. "You do?" Disbelief cracked my voice. "You play table tennis like a dancer dances. The way you move, the way you hit the ball. Sometimes I hum a song while watching you play. It's like you're dancing to that song." For the first time in my life, a tide of confidence swept through me. "I'm having a party after the show tomorrow afternoon at my house. Larry says that's what people do in show business. Will you come, Frances?" Her words filled me with both delight and agony. Delight at her invitation, and the instant agony of jealousy, the way she had casually said his name. Not Larry LaSalle, or Mr. LaSalle, as all the kids referred to him, but Larry, spoken offhand, as if they were more than teacher and pupil. Our conversation was interrupted by the announcement that the semi-final contests were about to begin. Nicole touched my shoulder, her hand both tender and caressing, and my flesh burned with the echo of her touch. "Good luck," she said. 2 hours later, I had survived more games than I could count, time passing in a blur as the ball zoomed back and forth across the table. Serve and return, spin and chop, the kill shot, the soft shot. My opponents were down in rapid succession. Finally, Joey LeBlanc, who was having a bad day with his serves, lost by a wide margin, 21-12, and went off muttering to himself. Never before had I known such a sense of destiny. I felt invincible, impossible to defeat, the ball always under my control. The spectators often cheered, gasped at a spectacular shot, either by me or by an opponent, and fell silent when the outcome of a contest seemed in doubt. But I knew no doubt. Between games, my eyes sought Nicole, and often spotted her smiling encouragement. The centre seemed vacant when I looked and did not see her. Louis Arabelle also had been winning contest after contest at the other table, drawing his own cheers and applause. We glanced at each other between games and exchanged grins. It seemed inevitable that we would meet in the final contest of the day. Each time I heard a burst of applause for the next table, I knew that Louis had scored another spectacular point. Finally, Louis and me, standing across the table from each other, both of us undefeated. Louis, tall and rangy, with long arms and legs, ready to play his deceptive game, never tense, never hurrying. I prepared myself for his soft strokes and dizzying spins and chops. Louis took 5 quick points with his first round of serves, catching me off balance with the casual way he raised his paddle and the ferocity of the ball as it arrowed over the net towards me. A hush fell over the crowd. I didn't panic, told myself to relax. This was a day in which I could not lose. My own 5 serves sent the game into a tie, and after that I simply planted myself 6 feet from the table and concentrated on the return. Louis lost 3 points in a row, and for the first time I saw him flushed with frustration, trying harder, frowning, and finally making mistakes. I reached 21 points to his 18, simply playing the game Larry LaSalle had taught me, being patient, remaining cool and composed, while Louis pressed harder. As he missed his last remaining shot, which gave me the victory, a shout went up from the crowd, followed by cheers and whistles and the stomping of feet. I turned, flushed with triumph, my heart beating furiously, blood pumping joyously in my veins. I saw Larry LaSalle coming through the crowd, holding the trophy high above his head. Saw Nicole beside him, her eyes on me, shining for me. Like a dream coming true, Nicole took the trophy from Larry LaSalle and handed it to me, the radiance of her face mirroring my own. The crowd grew silent as I pressed the trophy to my chest, my eyes becoming moist. Was I expected to make a speech? "Better watch out, Larry LaSalle," Joey LeBlanc called out. "Frances has got your number." Cheers and applause greeted his words, and I wished I could find a way of gagging Joey LeBlanc and keeping his mouth shut. Then a cry rose from the crowd. "Larry! Larry!" calling him by his first name. finding the courage to do together what no one would do alone. Larry! Larry! Cringing inside, my moment of triumph tarnished and trashed. I knew they wanted Larry LaSalle and me to play for the real championship of the rec centre. Then, Francis! Francis! More applause, shouts and whistles, and a voice from the crowd. You can do it, Francis! Larry LaSalle inclined his head towards me, his shoulders raised in resignation, as if to say, It's up to you, Francis. How can we say no to the crowd and disappoint them? Suddenly I thought, maybe I can beat him. My play during the afternoon had been almost flawless. Even the game with Louis Arabelle, who was the best of them all, had been an easy win. Like the gamblers in the casinos who go on a winning streak impossible to lose. Maybe I was on that kind of streak. I nodded towards Larry LaSalle and picked up my paddle, glanced again at Nicole and saw her smile of approval, planted my feet firmly on the floor and took a practice swing. A roar went up for the crowd. The game began. My serve. Paddle met ball. I didn't try for speed or spin, merely wanted to place the ball in proper position without risk and then play my defensive game. My heartbeat was steady, my body poised for action. The ball came back to me. I returned, came again, and again I returned. Larry LaSalle's return was placed perfectly at the edge of the table, almost impossible for me to reach, but somehow I reached it, returned it, throwing him off balance. My point, next point his, then mine again, then his. We were halfway through the game with the score standing at 13-12, my serve. Then I realized that he was letting me win, was guiding the game with such skill that no one but me realized what he was doing. He cleverly missed my returns by what seemed like 1/1000th of an inch, feigning frustration, and placed his returns in seemingly impossible spots, but within my reach. The noise of the crowd receded, diminished to a hush, broken only by the plopping of the ball on the table, the soft clunk of the ball on the rubber dimples of our paddles. A giant sigh rose from the crowd when an impressive point was made. I dared not take my eyes away from the game to look at Nicole. 2 games were being played at the same time. The sharp, take-no-prisoners game the hushed audience was observing, and the subtle, tender game which Larry LaSalle was letting me win. Finally, the score stood at 20-19, my favour. 1 point away from victory. I resisted meeting Larry LaSalle's eyes. It was still his serve. Crouching, waiting, I finally looked at him, saw his narrowed eyes. They were suddenly inscrutable, mysterious. A shudder made me tremble as I realized that he could easily win the next 2 points and take the championship away from me. He could win it so easily and so humiliatingly that the crowd, Nicole, would know instantly that he had been toying with me all along. The perfect serve came my way, but my return was perfect. We entered a seesaw cycle, hit and return, repeating endlessly near misses and lunging stabs until finally the ball came to my side. A breathtaking shot that veered to the table's edge, causing the crowd to gasp, although he and I knew that it was within my reach. His final gift to me. Lunging, I returned the ball to the only place it could go, impossible for him to return. He led the cheers, the hollers and whistles of celebration. Dashing to my side of the table, he pumped my hand, hugged me furiously, his ear close enough for me to whisper, "Thank you." He turned me over to the crowd as the cheers continued, my name endlessly shouted. My eyes sought Nicole, found her joyous face, hands joined together as if in prayer, eyes half closed as if making herself an offering to me. A moment later, as the crowd broke up, she was suddenly in front of me, radiant, clasping my hand, whispering, "My champion, and leaning so close that her breath was warm on my cheek. "See you tomorrow." But tomorrow was 7th of December, 1941.